Have you ever stopped to think about how something as small as a star can carry such a grand meaning? The legend of the Star of Bethlehem is much more than a Christmas tale. It's a story of hope, faith, and courage amidst uncertainty. While the world was living in darkness, an unexpected light appeared, not just in the sky, but also in the hearts of those who dared to follow it. It seems something distant, almost magical, doesn't it? But perhaps this story is more connected to your life than you imagine. How many times have you found yourself lost, not knowing which path to take? The Magi, like many of us, faced doubts, dangers, and tough choices. The difference? They trusted in something greater, something beyond logic or fear. And here's the most intriguing part. The same light that guided them is available to you. Would you have the courage to follow the glow that promises to transform your life? On this journey, we will unveil the mysteries behind the Star of Bethlehem and how it became the guiding thread of one of the most remarkable stories of all time. But beware, this is not just a tale from the past. It's an invitation for you to look up at the sky and find your own star. Are you ready to discover what this light could mean for you? One seemingly ordinary night, the sky over the ancient lands of the East began to tell a story that would change the world. The shepherds, accustomed to gazing at the heavens, noticed something different. An unusual star larger and brighter than any other. It wasn't just a light, but a sign. For generations, the skies had kept secrets, and now it seemed something grand was about to be revealed. Those who watched closely felt their hearts beat faster, as if the universe was whispering an ancient secret. This star, referred to by scholars as the Star of Bethlehem, did not appear by chance. It was like a divine whisper echoing in the silence of the night, catching the attention of even the most distracted. Under that sky filled with familiar constellations, the presence of this light seemed almost supernatural. Many wondered, was it an omen or just an illusion of the senses? But those who observed with faith believed that the miracle of Christmas began there, in the heart of a starry night. As the star remained stationary, like a guardian high in the sky, rumors began to spread. Wise men from neighboring regions soon gathered to discuss the phenomenon. It was impossible to ignore the magnitude of that event. Some believed it was a fulfillment of an ancient prophecy, something men had awaited for generations. Others, more skeptical, said it was merely a whim of nature. But there was something in its light that seemed to speak directly to the soul. Some decided to follow the star, driven by a curiosity that burned like fire. Among them were those who would become known as the Magi. Although they didn't yet know what they would find at the end of this journey, the call was irresistible. The glow of that light seemed to tell them stories, promise answers to questions they didn't even know they had. Each night, the star called to them louder and farther. The following nights were marked by heated debates and keen gazes at the sky. But behind the curiosity and fascination, a sense of urgency was also growing. The shepherds whispered about miracles, while the scholars carefully mapped the star's course. It was as if everyone knew, in some inexplicable way, that something extraordinary was underway. Each day, the certainty grew. That light was different. Among the mysteries surrounding the star, the question also arose: why now? Why in a time of so much turmoil and uncertainty? The answer, of course, wasn't in maps or calculations, but in the hearts of those who believed. It was as if the universe was conspiring to reveal something greater than the heavens themselves. The Star of Bethlehem wasn't just a vision. It was a call. And so, the star remained steadfast, shining brightly, as if waiting for the right hearts to be drawn to its light. Who would be able to unravel its secret? Who would dare to follow its glow to the promised destination? That was the question hanging in the air, while the world, little by little, prepared for the greatest miracle ever told. Long before the appearance of the Star of Bethlehem, ancient scriptures had already whispered about the birth of a special king. These words echoed like a veiled secret, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. It was a prophecy that spoke of light, of a miracle that would bring hope to all people. And intriguingly, this mystery was embraced by men who, in their distant lands, dedicated their lives to deciphering the signs of the universe. The Magi. The Magi were not just wise men. They were sky observers, interpreters of symbols, and masters of the stars. Every constellation, every movement in the heavens had a profound meaning to them. When they spotted the Star of Bethlehem, something within them resonated. They knew the ancient prophecies that spoke of a king who would be born under a celestial sign. But was that unique glow truly the announcement that this moment had finally arrived? Amidst astrological maps and old manuscripts, the Magi debated what this could mean. They recalled the words of a distant prophet who spoke of a ruler whose greatness would transcend earthly power. A king of souls, they said. And, although they carried doubts, the light of that star seemed to bring a kind of certainty that no written word could offer. The ancient prophecy, which had for so long been just history, began to come alive before their eyes. Each Magus, with his distinct personality, interpreted the phenomenon differently. Casper, the youngest, saw the star as an opportunity for rediscovery, something that could change not only the world but also himself. Melchior, the eldest, reflected on the many years of study that had led him to this moment. Balthazar, with his adventurous heart, seemed more interested in following the journey than in deciphering the mysteries. Together, they formed a trio of perspectives that, intriguingly, completed the puzzle. As the Magi prepared to depart, rumors about their mission began to spread. It was impossible to ignore the magnitude of what they were planning. There was an air of reverence in every move they made, as if even the heavens were anticipating it. Many thought they were crazy for abandoning everything to follow a light. But for the Magi, this was a call that transcended logic. The ancient scriptures were clear about one thing. The king who would be born would be a different kind of ruler, a symbol of peace and redemption. And as the Magi organized their caravan, excitement mixed with fear. After all, how could they prepare to meet someone so grand? They didn't know what to expect, but they felt that this journey would change their lives forever. It was as if the prophecy was waiting for them. With each step toward the unknown, the Magi carried more than just gifts and scrolls. They brought with them unwavering faith and burning curiosity. They knew that the prophecy was only the beginning of the story. The true conclusion would come when they knelt before the promised miracle. But to get there, they would need to face more than just a desert. They would have to confront their own doubts. The Magi were ready. The caravans were loaded. The maps were secured, and their eyes remained fixed on the star. But the journey ahead was not for the faint of heart. The desert, with its scorching heat and freezing nights, was a constant test. The wind, sometimes so strong it seemed to carry enough sand to erase any hope, whispered challenges. And yet, the light of the Star of Bethlehem continued to shine, like a steadfast guide on the horizon. With every step taken, obstacles arose. Animals refused to move forward. Supplies vanished faster than expected, and the constant weight of uncertainty pressed down on them. Casper, at times, looked out at the endless sands and wondered if it was all worth it. What if it's just a mirage? He thought silently. But Melchior, with the wisdom of the years, always had a ready answer. Great miracles require great trials. Balthazar, with his fearless spirit, was the one who lifted the group's morale. When exhaustion threatened to overcome them, he would tell stories of other travelers' adventures. Have you heard about the man who followed the sun and found an oasis? He would say, bringing smiles to his companions' faces. Humor, though simple, was a welcome relief amidst the desert's harshness. It proved that even in difficulties, there was room for hope. Nights were a chapter of their own, under a sky full of stars. The Magi would gather around the campfire, sharing their doubts and dreams. Casper, with a hesitant tone, once asked, "What if the star leads us to nowhere?" Melchior, remaining calm, replied, "Then we will have learned the value of faith." The fire's flames seemed to dance in harmony with the star above, as if both knew a secret the Magi could not yet understand. The star, in turn, never disappeared. Even in the fiercest storms, When the sky seemed swallowed by darkness, it reappeared, steady and bright. It was as if it was saying, "Keep going," and the Magi kept going. In moments of doubt, they would look up at the sky and feel a renewal of strength. The desert, once an enemy, became an ally that strengthened them with each step taken. The hardships also brought the trio closer together. What began as a practical alliance transformed into a friendship. They learned to trust one another, to rely on strengths they didn't know they possessed. And little by little, they began to realize that the journey was as important as the destination. Every grain of sand, every star in the sky, seemed to tell a story, whispering a greater purpose. When they finally spotted the first shadows of cities in the distance, the feeling was one of relief mixed with anticipation. But they knew the real challenge was yet to come. The star had led them this far, but what would they find beyond the desert? The horizon promised answers, but also bigger questions. The final destination seemed increasingly close, but what would it reveal? After endless days crossing the desert, the Magi finally arrived in the city of Jerusalem, an inevitable stop on their journey. The hustle and bustle of the streets contrasted with the desert's silence, and soon their robes and the grandeur of the caravan drew attention. "Who are these men following the star?" the curious whispered. Little did they know that this destination would put them face to face with the powerful and dangerous King Herod. Herod was a shrewd man, but also insecure. He ruled with an iron fist and ever-suspicious eyes. When he heard about the travelers seeking a newly born king, his curiosity quickly mingled with fear. Another king? He thought, uneasy. To him, any mention of a new ruler was a threat to his throne. However, with a calculated smile, he ordered the Magi to be brought in, determined to extract all possible information from them. The meeting was tense from the start. Seated in the throne room, under Herod's watchful gaze, the Magi explained their mission. "We follow the star that announces the birth of a king," Melchior said calmly. Herod leaned forward, feigning interest, while his heart was plotting dark schemes. "When you find this king, come back and tell me so that I too may worship him," he said, with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. However, the Magi were no fools. Although they didn't know what Herod was scheming, there was something in his voice that made them uneasy. Caspar noticed the tension in the king's gestures. Melchior felt the weight of words that seemed too rehearsed. Balthazar, in turn, looked at the star visible through the palace window and felt even greater unease. "Should we trust him?" he asked quietly when they were alone. As they debated, the star seemed to shine even more intensely, serving as a reminder that the true guide was the heavens, not the words of a worldly king. The decision weighed heavily on their shoulders. Returning to Herod and reporting what they had found would mean exposing the newborn to a danger they could barely comprehend. But disobeying the king could bring severe consequences. It was a dilemma that challenged their faith and courage. That night, the Magi had restless dreams, almost as if the universe itself was sending them a warning. In each dream, the message was clear: do not trust Herod. When they woke up, the decision seemed inevitable. The star continued to call them, like a divine compass, and they knew their loyalty was not to the earthly throne but to the miracle they were about to witness. Leaving Jerusalem, the Magi knew they couldn't return the same way. Herod was not a man who would take betrayal lightly, but as they followed the star into the unknown, they carried with them a certainty. The choice they made, though dangerous, was the right one. On the horizon, the star's glow grew brighter, as if destiny impatiently awaited their arrival. After many days and nights of uncertainty, the Magi finally spotted the small town of Bethlehem. The star's brightness seemed more intense than ever, almost as if it was guiding them to the exact location. It wasn't a palace or an ornate mansion. It was something much simpler, a stable. "Here," Caspar asked, frowning. Melchior, however, looked around and replied with inexplicable serenity, "Not all kings are born on golden thrones." The scene they encountered upon entering was one of touching humility. In the center of the stable, Among the hay and animals was baby Jesus, wrapped in simple cloths. Mary and Joseph, visibly tired but radiating deep peace, welcomed the Magi with gentle smiles. The contrast was striking. The celestial glow of the star illuminated that modest place, as if reaffirming that something grand lay within the simplicity. Balthazar was the first to kneel, feeling an emotion he couldn't explain. He didn't just see a baby, he saw a miracle. "It's him," he murmured, with tears in his eyes. Caspar, who had often questioned the journey, now had no doubts. Before that little boy, he felt his heart fill with a mixture of reverence and gratitude. How can something so small carry such a great promise, he thought in awe. Mary watched everything in silence, with a look of tenderness and wisdom that seemed to transcend her youth. Joseph, on the other hand, showed a mix of pride and humility, as if he knew he was in the presence of something greater than himself. The Magi, who had often sought answers in the stars, now found all of them in the brightness of the boy's eyes. It was a moment that transcended words, a meeting between the human and the divine. As the animals in the stable seemed almost to participate in that silent reverence, the Magi took out the gifts they had brought. Each object, carefully chosen, carried a deep meaning. Gold for royalty, incense for divinity, myrrh for mortality. Melchior placed the gold before the boy and said, "This is for the king who will rule not with power, but with love." The star, as if approving, shone even more brightly. The silence in the stable was broken only by the soft sound of the boy's breathing. For the Magi, that moment was a culmination of everything: the prophecies, the journey, the overcome doubts. "We have found the king," Balthazar said, his voice trembling. But deep down, they knew this was just the beginning of something much greater, a story that would transform the world. When they left the stable, the Magi looked once more at the star. Now, it seemed less a guide and more a witness to what they had experienced. The night was calm, but their hearts were filled with unease. That moment was not just a meeting, it was a calling. And as they walked away, they couldn't help but wonder, what else would that light reveal? Before baby Jesus, the Magi not only knelt in reverence, but also opened their chests to offer carefully chosen gifts. They were not mere symbols of wealth or display. Each item carried a meaning that echoed the prophecies and pointed to the destiny of the one they had just found. Melchior, with steady hands and a serene expression, was the first to approach, presenting the gold. "For the king who will reign over all, with justice and compassion," he said, as he placed the offering before the boy. The gold, bright and pure, was a symbol of royalty. For the Magi, there was no doubt they were in the presence of a true king, though Jesus' throne was a stable and his crown was not made of precious metals. That gift was a declaration of faith. They recognized in him the majesty that transcends earthly titles. Mary, seeing the shine of the gold, smiled humbly, perhaps already understanding that her son would bring light to the world in a way no one could have predicted. Next was Caspar's turn, holding a small container of incense. Upon opening the vial, the sweet and subtle aroma filled the room, bringing an atmosphere of spirituality. "This is for the divine," he murmured, with a nearly tangible respect. Incense was traditionally used in worship rituals, and by offering it, Caspar declared that the boy was more than a king. He was a very reflection of God among men. The fragrance seemed to dance in the air, as if ascending to the heavens in silent praise. Finally, Balthazar brought myrrh, a gift that seemed strange at first glance. It was a bitter resin, used to prepare bodies for burial. "For the one who will bring redemption through his sacrifice," he explained, his eyes full of reverence and a touch of sadness. Myrrh, with its somber symbolism, was a reminder that Jesus' journey would not be easy. For the Magi, acknowledging this was painful but necessary. Mary held the myrrh for a moment, as if feeling the weight of that destiny. The gifts, though simple in their physical form, carried deep messages. Gold represented the king, incense the divine, and myrrh the sacrifice. Together, they told a complete story about who that boy was, and what he would mean for the world. Each object seemed to have been chosen by destiny itself, as if even the heavens wanted to reaffirm Jesus' role in the history of humanity. As the Magi presented their offerings, they felt something different. They weren't just giving gifts, but receiving something in return. That moment transformed them. It wasn't the gold, the incense, or the myrrh that added value to the encounter, but the understanding that they were witnessing something infinitely greater. Each gift seemed to glow under the star's light, like a piece of a grand celestial puzzle. When they left the stable, the Magi carried with them the certainty that those gifts were not the end, but merely the beginning of a much larger journey. They had fulfilled their role by recognizing and honoring the baby king. However, the star still shone in the sky, as if saying that the story didn't end there. There was more to be revealed, more miracles to come, and they were ready to follow the light wherever it would lead them. As the Magi departed the stable, there was a different feeling in the air. It wasn't just the fatigue from the long journey, or the satisfaction of having found the baby king. It was something deeper, as if the light of the Star of Bethlehem now shone within them. "We will never be the same," Melchior said, breaking the night silence. And indeed, they wouldn't be. That encounter had transformed not only their beliefs, but also their souls. The Magi knew they couldn't return the same way. Herod, with his lingering rage and dark intentions, was a real threat. But the reason to avoid the king went beyond a matter of safety. Taking a different path symbolized something greater: the decision not to let the earthly world corrupt the divine experience they had lived. They were ready to tread new paths, both physical and spiritual. As they crossed the desert once more, each landscape seemed different, as if seen through new eyes. Balthazar, always the most adventurous, now found himself reflecting on what it truly meant to follow the light. Before, we followed the star in the sky. Now, we follow the light within ourselves, he said in an almost philosophical tone. Casper, who had started the journey full of doubts, was now the first to encourage the group during tough moments. The boy, with his simplicity, had awakened a faith in him he didn't even know he possessed. The return journey was marked by unexpected encounters. Shepherds, travelers, and even merchants stopped to listen to the stories the Magi shared. They didn't just talk about the baby king, but also about the miracle of finding purpose amidst adversity. "The light we saw isn't just for us," Melchior said. "It's for everyone who has the courage to look up at the sky and follow what they believe in." Each night, as they camped under the starry sky, the Magi remembered the boy Jesus' gaze, Mary's peace, and Joseph's quiet strength. These memories were like fuel that kept them moving, even when exhaustion threatened to overtake them. The star, though now more distant, still seemed to watch over them from afar, a reminder that their journey was far from over. When they finally reached their homelands, the Magi were different men. It wasn't just a change in thinking, but a change of heart. Melchior dedicated himself to writing about the experience, leaving records that would echo for generations. Casper, inspired by what he had lived, became a leader in his community, sharing the message of hope. And Balthazar, with his free spirit, continued traveling, spreading the story of the boy who was born to change the world. But above all, the Magi carried a certainty. The light they had followed wasn't just a star in the sky, but a symbol of something much greater. Every step they took, every word they shared, was a way to spread that light. The encounter with the boy had transformed them, but the true change was in the impact they would have on others. The Star of Bethlehem continued to shine, now not just in the sky, but in every life they touched. Now that you know the fascinating journey of the Magi and the transformative impact of the Star of Bethlehem, ask yourself, what is the light you are following in your life? Are you letting fear or doubt obscure your path? Just like the Magi, you too can find a greater purpose, even amidst adversity. The question is, are you willing to take the first step? Imagine how your life would be if you trusted more in the brightness of your own aspirations. And if, like the Magi, you decided not to return the same way, but to forge new paths filled with meaning and hope, What would you do today if you knew that something grand was waiting for you just over the horizon? The Star of Bethlehem teaches us that miracles happen to those who have the courage to look up and keep moving forward. So, why not start now? Let this story inspire your choices and transform the way you see the world. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our inspiring content. After all, every story is an opportunity to learn, grow, and shine. Your journey is just beginning,